G'day. Welcome to OLY35mm, user-based, quasi-empirical, cheap and cheerful videos on Olympus 35mm cameras, accessories, books, ephemera, all sorts of stuff. But today, lenses. And today specifically, standard lenses. Now, as we probably all know, the eye can, or the eyes together, can actually see quite wide. But that centre sort of focus area where colour and contrast is at its best, and we tend to look at mainly and focus on mainly, is about 50-degree angle of view. Now, the thought about standard lenses for a 35mm camera is that it should be somewhere around about that angle of view. And Leica many years ago sort of adopted the 50mm lens. So 42, 43 is probably the closest-ish to the eye, but 50mm has become the standard. And it's also become very easy to have multiples, that 100mm, 200mm, 300mm, so forth and so on. So what do we got in the Zuiko range? Well, we have quite a few choices, and quite a few of them are also quite reasonably priced as well. In fact, what you're seeing here, with the possible exception of the 50mm f1.4, are generally found for under $100. So good value. Now I'll just take this one away for the moment and just put him in the back so you can see the 1.4 a bit closer. Now the 50mm 1.4 is my all-time favourite lens. Absolutely love it. You'll pick one up probably for about 150 to 200 Australian dollars. Mine was in about the middle there. Lovely clarity, sharpness, excuse my cough there. And just an all-round nice lens, and 1.4 is nice and bright. The standard lens that came with most of the cameras of the day was the 1.8 lens, and you also had the opportunity to go up market to a 55mm 1.2, and then later that was replaced by a 50mm 1.2. Now, with the 50mm, there's a couple more to have a bit of a think about, and one is this fella here, and that's the 50mm f3.5 macro. I absolutely love this lens. It's just a great little macro lens, 1:1 macro, not quite as bright as it could be, of course. It's 2 stops slower than sort of some of the others that are kicking around that area, but a really lovely lens nonetheless. There was also a 40mm f2 lens, a little pancake, and that had about a 56-degree angle of view, if I remember rightly. It was only about 25mm deep, and if you're wondering what that is, this little fella here, this 50mm 1.8, is about 32mm deep, so it was probably, about to here, I should imagine. Unfortunately, I've never seen one. That and the 55mm 1.2 and the 50mm 1.2 tend to command fairly high prices, so great if you can afford one, or if you can justify it. But these three lenses here are awfully good anyway, and quite reasonably priced. Now, while we're talking about it, I should mention a couple of other lenses as well, and they're in the zoom range. And now there are other short zooms around, but these two fall into sort of the standard category because they both have 50mm marks, and are roughly sort of the same size-ish as a 50mm lens. That's the 28 to 48 f4 and the 35 to 70 f3.5. This actually came in quite a few different versions. Olympus seemed to make a whole pile of them. There was a power focus version, autofocus version, and an f4 version, and so forth and so on. But this one is actually a nice small size and can be picked up quite cheaply, $50, $60 if you keep your eye out for it. So they're standard lenses for you. Everybody should have one in their collection, in my mind. Well worth keeping a hold of one. And I tell you what, either the 50mm f1.8 or the 50mm f1.4 is probably my pick of the lot for a standard lens. So that's it for today. Thanks very much for listening. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.